Hey guys, hello. Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat. This is a very impromptu live, middle of the day. Usually don't go live unless it is at nighttime or in the evening, but hello. Hello. How are you ladies doing? Make sure to like the video as you come in. Okay, so this is an impromptu live on weak men are hyper-focused on silencing and humbling women, right? Now, this is something that's been happening throughout the ages of human society, women just being, pushed down and silenced. Hey, Brianna. But particularly here on YouTube and in the manosphere, silencing women on a woman's platform in conversations that involve women is what has been just shocking to me, right? Because men have something called locker room talk. They have barbershop talk. Women know better than to be going all up in there telling men how to talk and what they can and can't say. But when women have our own spaces, now it's like a free for all for men to come in and say and tell us what we can and can't post, what we can and can't talk about. And what men don't understand is this is the BWE space in general, in particular, is the Black woman version of locker room talk. It is the Black woman version of barbershop talk, right? There are no rules here. You can't shame a Black woman for talking about a Black man. You can't shame a Black woman in this space for talking about statistics, for talking about things she's going through in her love life, in her career life. You cannot come here and tell women what we need to be talking about on a woman's platform, on her channel, in her space. As a man, that doesn't make any sense. Your message is going in one ear and out the other. Like over the past few days, there has been an infiltration of angry, weak men in my comments telling me what I can and can't talk about. And just in general, there's just a lot of men telling Black women to stop talking about them, right? Now, there's a difference between creating a platform as a Black woman and talking crap about Black men all day and calling them nakers and bullet bags and N words with the ER and just all that dramatic stuff, right? But there's a difference between doing that and just talking about your experiences. Like there's a difference between the two. You as a woman have a right to talk about your experiences. You as a woman have a right to observe certain trends and patterns and share them with other like-minded women. You have a right to do so. Because I was on TikTok and the men on TikTok are just something else. Because they will if you come across a video like a red pill TikTok video and you leave something on there, they will come at you really, really hard. Or if you're a Black woman who makes a video, they will also be in those comments. And the frustrating thing is women are allowed to talk about whatever they want in spaces where it's only for Black women without having to be told anything by the men. Like the men don't have agency here. They don't have authority here. They don't. So let me share my screen, guys, because you know me, like I don't really like coming on live unless I have something to show you. Because I just always have something to show you guys. Right? But weak men, literally weak men, are the only ones who are going to be obsessed and hyper focused on humbling and silencing women. And this is because they legitimately have nothing else better to do. They have nothing else better to do. So I found this article, right? I found this article and it is 30 plus signs of a weak man in a relationship. And there's literally 30 reasons to tell how a man is weak. I mean, we know that there's probably more, but here's a good 30, right? And these are the two that stuck out to me the most. I mean, there's a lot more, but these two are very, very much so relevant to how the men in this space move through women. He's name calling of any sort, or demands that you should be serving him. He's always blaming you and never taking accountability. Every man that's been into my comments legitly follows this to a T. Or this. I had a man in my comments. Basically, it seemed to me that he was trying to say that women who aren't married still should be submitting to men and still should be under men through leadership, right? And he was bringing up Bible scriptures and stuff like that to validate his point. And it's not that when you talk about scripture, right? This is what I hate about certain people in the church. They will really use scriptures to manipulate you and try to make their points, right? And their points be wrong as heck. So he tried to use scripture to say that women, whether they're married or not, should be under men and should be submitting to men and yada yada. And I told him there's plenty of scriptures that say men are the leaders. We know this. If you're even a traditional woman, you know that men lead. However, the type of submission that you give your husband versus what you would give like a man who's a leader on the job or a supervisor or a leader in the church is not the same. The two aren't the same. So you have men out here demanding that you serve him just because he has a penis. And you even have men in the church that are bringing up scriptures to validate it. You should never be, first of all, the scripture even says to not even put your trust in man, but to put it in God. I mean, if you're a Christian woman and you really read the Bible like that, nowhere does it say you should be out here trusting men for real, all willy-nilly. It doesn't say that, right? Another sign of the weak man is he is blaming and never taking accountability. Ladies, how many times have we heard men in this space say you should have chose better? It's the men you're choosing. Well, who's raising these men? That is like Black Manosphere talking point 101. 101. And when it comes to Tina Knowles wanting to do a documentary for these types of men, it's a joke. It's a joke because the men in this space that are on board with this new documentary that's coming out, they legitly follow everything on this list. From what I've seen, he's gaslighting. He's being rude towards strangers. He has no relationship with purpose. Men who are hyper-focused on humbling and silencing women have nothing else better to do, and they have no purpose. Legitly, they have no purpose. If you did, you wouldn't even be on women's spaces in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for men who have something going on that are truly, quote unquote, high value, who truly know what they want, to be on women's spaces telling them what they can and cannot talk about. You're weak. You're not meant to lead. That's why you're in women's spaces. Right? That's the point. And I can't help but to notice that these types of men all look the same in this space, in BWE spaces. Right? Now, don't get it twisted. I've seen other ladies in the BWE space who have left comments in the manosphere, but one thing I haven't seen is Black women saying, why do you keep talking about Black women like that? I mean, not a lot. If anything, Black women go over there to correct, to enlighten, to educate, whatever the reason is. But at the end of the day, men have their spaces. They've always had the respect of that barbershop locker room talk, and it's always just been that way. People have always had an understanding for that. But when women start their own stuff, it's all of a sudden an issue. And the thing with these men now wanting to silence you and not understanding why you claim to be quote unquote divested, but you're so invested in what Black men are doing, it's because they want to be able to do their dirt and no one know about it and have it swept under the rug in a sort of way, right? There's no point. What is the point of going through things that you can't share with other people? What is so you like you literally want women to go through life experiencing things from a certain type of man and just never talk about it ever? Like never share her wisdom from that experience. One thing about women is that we are actually meant to be wise. Historically, women were wise. An honorable woman was a wise one, which means she had a lot of experiences, which means she had the range to share and talk about what mattered most, what was important. So you have men that legitly don't appreciate women that have experiences because they want you to be quiet. They want you to be quiet. They want to humble you, right? A man who has to humble you all of the time doesn't like you. He doesn't like you. He does not like you at all. And the thing about it is that the men in this community, in the Black community, in the Black manosphere, this is only applied to Black women. Other women do the same doggone thing. Other women talk about their men and the different types of men all of the time. All of the time. But they're not shunned for it like that. They're really not. And, it's funny to me. It's funny to me because these men think it's alpha. They think it's masculine or whatever. And it's nowhere near it. It's nowhere near it. I can't stand a man that tells me I cannot share my experiences. I cannot stand it because you want me to be a woman who knows things but doesn't want to share. If you're a woman who's about community, you have no problem sharing information. That's the point. Like these men, I don't believe they know what it means to recognize a woman who is smart, wise, and honorable. I believe a lot of these men only can recognize Jezebels and doormats. That's what it's giving. That's what it's giving to me. I'm going to do another video soon overall just talking about the delusions of a lot of men today, because I was on TikTok in a comment section, and I actually think this was with a non-Black man, to be honest, but he was very much so red-pilled. And so he was talking about how when he turns 35, he's going to make $135,000 a year. And when he does, it's going to be so easy for him to be intimate and sleep with a 20-year-old baddie, right? And it's just like, sorry to burst your bubble, but 20-year-old baddies are not out here checking for men who are 37 to 40, only making $135K. All right. Young women who want a man of means, they want men whose money runs the long way. Like if you go on TikTok and you do see young, beautiful girls in age gap relationships, the men that they're with are multi-million-dollar men from what it seems, because they're doing and going out just doing the most. They're not with men who make a measly 6 figures, because in today's time, let's be real, 6 figures is just not a lot of money. It's just not. And so he was really going back and forth with me about how the odds are just going to be in his favor once he starts to make $135,000, that he's going to get the best type of chick. And he just didn't understand that beauty and fertility and youth costs money, and it does cost more than 6 figures. And on top of that, young girls, young people are not stable enough at times to be with older folks, because older people are wiser and have more experiences. That's another thing I see in this space from these men. They don't want you. They believe that younger women have less experiences, less baggage, and they're easier to groom and teach, right? That is problematic, right? There's nothing wrong with young women being wives, right? But if you want to degrade the older woman and say that they're not good enough simply because they're young, you don't really know what a wife is about. You cannot recognize a wife because wives are wise. They have experience. They are able to be a second ear into their husband's in his dealings with life in general. Like, she is the neck, he is the head, right? And men who are hyper focused on silencing and humbling quote unquote women, they don't understand that. They think the easier you are, the more doormatish you are, the more qualified you are to be a wife, and that couldn't be further from the truth. That couldn't be further from the truth. Being a doormat and stupid is not going to get you to be a wife. And I know these men will never come out and say that, but from their descriptions, that is what that means for the most part. For the most part, that is what that means. A weak man can't make his lady feel secure because he himself is emotionally vulnerable. Women always want to date and marry a strong man because they possess certain innate qualities to make them feel emotionally secure and happy. But what about those weak men out there who want to have a strong-willed girlfriend or wife living with them? They can't. They can't because they will want to humble you and want you to be quiet. And that is because they're weak inside. They're insecure, right? No man is going to be able to prove to you that he is strong and capable if he is consistently wanting you to be quiet. Just from speaking your mind. Like, it's not like you're being combative, you're being rude, you're just expressing yourself. A totally normal thing to do. And these men dislike it. They think it's you being too much. And it's not that you're too much, it's that they are weak and they're not enough in general. They don't have what it takes. So I am always confused when men want to come onto women's spaces and tell women to not talk about them or to not talk about their experiences, right? And a new thing I'm seeing, well, I don't know if it's new, but I've just been seeing a lot of it lately, is that these people, and I say people because it includes some other Black women, want to tell other Black women who actually call out the BS, they want to call you a white supremacist and say that you have white supremacist, those are talking points from white supremacy, right? If someone calls a Black person or a Black man lazy, it's not because he's Black, it's because they have extremely low employment rates. Like, they're the most unemployed group of people. So yes, someone who's not in the community, who doesn't have a lot of proximity with Black people, see that Black men are the most unemployed group of people. What do you expect them to think? They're hard workers? No, they're gonna think that they're lazy. And it's not because they're Black, it's because that's what they do. They don't want to fill out job applications. And let's talk about institutionalized racism. Let's touch on that briefly. Because institutionalized racism in general, guys, racism in general is a construct. It is something that's developed by society. It's not something that people are born to know about. Like, infants aren't looking at you and can see that you're a Black person and something's wrong with you. They just see that your color is different than everyone else. That's it. And it's not until they get older and get involved around certain people, experiences, situations, and hear certain things that they start to understand racism. It's constructed by society, right? It's just the truth. It's just the truth. And so this documentary coming out is saying that, Black men have been held back in some kind of a way by society, by their community, or whatever, when it's literally, you just have to turn on the news, go throughout life, and you see that the stereotypes that people are placing on Black men, they actually live up to. I did not leave up my last live, but my last live was literally about Black men living up to the standards and the stereotypes and the caricatures that white people placed on them. If you guys were in my last live, I didn't leave it up because there was a lot of sensitive photos and information. I'm still working on the clips to upload. But if you guys were in my last live, we looked at Mike Tyson and how he was actually a good guy, but society and the media painted him out to be a brute. And instead of him choosing to take back his image, he openly accepted being a brute, which was a Black man who is a savage, who is, lustful, hypersexual, aggressive, and angry. Was the Jim Crow era's definition of a brute, of a Black male brute, right? So, when these men blame everyone else for why they are seen the way they are, while failing to acknowledge the participation that they play in it, that affects systematic and institutionalized racism for Black men, and why specifically Black men get overlooked for jobs, specifically them. It is because there are some Black men out there at large that are participating in this lifestyle that feeds the stereotype that CEOs do not want a part of their companies. That is just the truth. Right? And all of these systems and all of these reasons as to why certain groups of people can't make it to a certain spot, there's a reason for that. It's not just all made up. People don't just wake up and decide to place things on others. There are actions done by that group of people to classify them as such. If Black men no longer want to be known as thugs and gangbangers, they need to stop participating in thug-like and gangbanging activity, and also stop supporting the music. Don't even develop the mentality, because you have these men who are Black and professional, but yet still have the future mentality. I knew a Black man who was a whole professional man, double educated, and I asked him, who do you support more, Future or Russell Wilson? And he said Future. His mentality was still like a thug. It was still like a thug. I was like, are you kidding me? So why do they not accept Russell Wilson? Why do they not accept Russell Wilson? Because Russell Wilson is a man that holds himself accountable. He's a man that is disciplined and responsible. And he exemplified that, regardless of his past, he exemplified that when he got with Sierra. Let's talk about Sierra's son with Future, Little Future, right? Little Future has a father, and it's Future the rapper, but he doesn't have an active dad. You cannot call Future an active father. Future has kids everywhere, and he's out here doing the most. He's not an active father. He's not in the house all of the time. You know he ain't in the house all the time. We don't have to know the man personally to understand this. We don't have to know him personally to understand this. So here you got Russell Wilson, who everyone calls a beta. All the men call him a beta. Wasn't he at some point one of the highest earning football players or something like that? The highest paid football players or something? I don't know. I don't watch sports like that. But wasn't he just making a lot of money for his position in the NFL? And he married Sierra, who already had a kid, and gave that little boy a father figure, a stable and responsible father figure who works hard, who's a family man. Black men don't like that image. They think it is lame. They base their masculinity on being like Future. Literally, they do. And when you speak up against that as a Black woman, they want to silence you. They want to say, if you're a divester, stop talking about Black men, right? Stop talking about them. First of all, whether you're a divester or not, as a Black woman, you were raised in the Black community. There's always going to be something you could say about anyone in your community, on any level. And it's just the truth. The men who are on here adamantly going to women's spaces to let them know what they can and cannot talk about are weak men. They have nothing else better to do. They also want to make sure that they control their image without having to actually do anything to change their image. But in their mind, they think that action means keeping Black women quiet and creating documentaries. Right? I said in my last live, when a group of women have to go out and advocate for their men, it is emasculating. It is emasculating when women are all in the streets rioting, marching for a man who died by another man. It is. And it's mammy behavior. Everyone is describing a mammy as a Black woman who takes care of a white man's kids, but there is actually two definitions to a mammy. The first one, yes, is taking care of a white person's kids. The second one is a woman who embodies a motherly spirit. No matter your race, no matter if you have kids or not, you treat everyone or a certain group of people like they are your kid. You openly give your maternal instincts to people who are not your child. That is just the truth. It's just the truth. You know what the difference is between women who go, the BLM rioters and the insurrectionists? Look up pictures of both incidents, of the last BLM, George Floyd stuff, and the insurrection. Which gender of people were in the streets the most? Insurrectionists, if you look at the pictures and the videos, there was nothing but men up in that thing, fighting for their rights, whatever they believed in. It was majority men in there. The woman, and they was married. The woman and the kids was at home during the insurrection. Their men were storming the Capitol. Okay? Their men were up in there doing that. For BLM, you see a bunch of Black women in the streets while the men be at home. Make that make sense. And this is why they're still talking. If you turn on the news, the national news, they still talk about insurrectionists today. When they talk about BLM, it's like when someone dies, when a Black man dies and the BLM stuff starts, it's just a matter of time before it's over again. And then everything is back to normal. When white people get out and riot, it's something that they talk about all the time because it's men that are out there fighting for something, marching for something. It's the men out there doing it. It is emasculating to have women out here advocating for men's rights. Men should be advocating for whatever it is they believe in, not the woman. It's not our place. It's not our place. And you know what these men need to do? If you know what these men need to do, what they need to do to really change their image, to be heard, to no longer have the woman speaking up and being so loud, they need to be the ones in the streets now. They need to be the ones in the streets telling their wives, their girlfriends, their sisters, their aunties to stay home. That's it. That's it. It just is what it is. Men who are hyper-focused on silencing women are weak. They are, because they don't waste their time even doing so. Their time is spent gaining power and changing the message and setting the record straight. They're not worried about what women are saying. That's how it's always been historically. Literally, that's how it's always been. Right? For real. I don't know if you guys want to speak on this. I can drop the link. I can drop the link. Because weak men who continue to come into women's spaces telling them to be quiet about the things they experienced makes no sense. You do not hear about a woman going to the locker room or into an all men's barbershop telling the men to shut up. You don't see that happening. You don't. Strong men don't infiltrate women's spaces because they're triggered emotionally. You're coming into women's spaces and responding because you have an emotional response to what women are saying. And in these spaces, women are not talking about you as an individual. They're talking about their experience. They're talking about patterns and trends associated with certain groups and certain types of men, whether based on race or professions or personality types or cultures. Like, majority of the crazy things I see on Black men, I see more of it about American Black men versus I do men from Nigeria, Black men from Nigeria. That's just what I see. That's just what I see, guys. Let me see what you guys are saying. I don't believe Russell Wilson's a simp. I don't. How is a man who decided to step up and be a father figure to a little boy who would barely ever see his dad because his dad is a superstar with other kids all over the country? How is that type of guy a simp? Like, do y'all want to look? This is a serious question. Do y'all really want to look like you don't care? Because people who have some sense, who have some morality, who have home training, who care about community and family are never going to look at Russell Wilson like he's a loser. They're never going to look at him like that. Ever. They're going to look at Future and men like Nick Cannon like they have some issues. Those are the types of men that the world is looking at that are problematic. They're not looking at Future like they're problematic. It's only Black men parading online that Future is problematic. That is because majority of those Black men who have something to say about Russell Wilson negatively, they are not legacy minded. They're not marriage minded. They are not husband material. They want a future lifestyle. I see young Black men wanting to be high value solely so they can have sex with multiple women. I have yet to see a comment of a Black man who wants to be high value so that he can have a wife and kids and support them fully. Someone point me to one, because browsing in the spaces on my own time, I have not seen it. I see men having conversations about why it's okay for them to be a whole husband with a wife and babies at home and still having sex with other women while he's away from his family. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not condoning cheating. I'm not saying what y'all have to do if you get cheated on or whatever. But what I'm saying is I'm not seeing other groups of men openly and proudly say that they have the right to sleep with other women while they are married with kids at home. All because they make 6 figures? Really? Really? 6 figures is not a lot of money anymore. It's not. It's not. Even men who are multimillionaires don't think, you know what? You know what? The men who think this way, the men who think that once they accomplish something that's super regular, it is regular to be a man who ends up making 6 figures. That is a regular thing to do. It's not special, it's not exclusive, and it's not unheard of. It is regular. Men who come from really nothing believe that when they get a little something, now all of a sudden they deserve the most. They deserve the most. Men who come from quote unquote old money, who come from inheritances and trust funds, whose father's father, and father's father's father owned the business and passed it down and have always made millions of dollars, don't think this way. They don't believe they now need to go out and do the most once they've made it somewhere because they've always had it. It's not special anymore. We're definitely going to get into that conversation. The difference between people raised and have new money and the difference between people who have old money. There is a difference. The difference is they don't feel the need to wow out once they get somewhere. That's the difference. The difference is they don't believe they need to participate in a life of debauchery because they did what they're supposed to do, which is to become a productive citizen to the utmost capacity. That's not something men from quote unquote old money believe in. They don't care to have multiple options. Once you actually get to the top, guys, once you actually get to the top, you're going to look down and think, you're going to look down and think like, wow, nothing else. I don't even care about that stuff anymore. I didn't put in so much work to get here. And now that I am here, I just want to rest and relax. I just want to rest and relax. It's only the men that are bottom feeders, that are weak, that are fantasizing about this amazing life and thinking that they're going to become these scoundrels for everything and everyone and not care and they're entitled to it all. I promise you guys, I have never met a man who was raised in a gated community with the silver spoon that thinks like this, that thinks like these bottom feeder weak men. And it's not even about money. Sometimes it could be he comes from a household where there's an abundance of love, where there's an abundance of community and fellowship, where there's an abundance of positivity, which is why when he grows up, he doesn't care to like do the most and use women as conquests. Let me show you guys another article. Oh, I'm gonna have to spend some time. Well, let me show you guys another article that I was just reading literally yesterday. And it is called, okay, I found it, but it's like on my iPad. I don't know how I can. It was about a researcher written by a Black man, right? And he went out to talk to Black men about their relationship status to dispel the myths that are in the media about Black men. And he was a PhD candidate guy. Okay, I found it. Can you guys see this? And it was written by a Black man. This was published in December of 2020. The reality of Black men's love lives and marriages is very different than what's usually shown on TV. I spent years actually talking to them. Right? Written by a Black man, Armand Perry, professor of social work at University of Louisville during the time this was written. Finding and keeping a good Black man in a relationship has become a cottage industry, from celebrities and reality TV stars to social media influencers. For better or worse, there is no shortage of relationship advice to people seeking to figure out Black men. And while much of this content is understood to be for entertainment purposes only, some of it is presented and received as legitimate and data-driven. This is a problem because too many people cannot distinguish what they see on screen from reality. Media portrayals are often hyperbolic and sensationalized to attract public attention. Equally troubling is that the majority of academic research in this area also perpetuates many of the same negative patterns that are common in popular culture. As a graduate student and university professor, I have spent nearly 2 decades reviewing these studies on Black men and families. The general consensus from them falls into one of the two categories. First, that many Black men are not viable marriage mates because their financial struggles will not allow them to provide for a wife and kids. Other studies conclude that many poor Black men reject monogamous romantic relationships in favor of a hypersexual masculinity to overcompensate for their inability to fulfill the traditional breadwinner role. These men, the studies conclude, treat women as conquest rather than partners. Guys, this is what I'm talking about. Men who are poor in some area come from scarcity, believe that when they get somewhere, they now need to wild the hell out. Future and Nick Cannon are examples of this, of Black men who came from poor homes, and now that they are where they're at, look at how they're living their life. I mean, if you're a traditional person, even if you're not traditional, having babies everywhere is problematic for the kids. That's the thing. When you're dealing with a group of men who aren't used to anything, they can't see the bigger picture. They cannot see it. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. And it's not because they're Black, it's because that is the circumstance. This is not a white supremacist talking point. There is research to back this up. That is why they're on here telling you what you don't deserve, what you can't get as a woman, speaking like they're a woman. These men come on here to silence and humble women like they have the experience of one to do so. It makes no sense. It is a form of manipulation. It is a form of just weakness. It is weakness. Now, this isn't every man. There's still amazing men that come from horrible situations and they grow up to actually know how to do better for themselves. 100%. 100%. But that is a personal choice for them to want to be better. You have to actually want to be better. If you don't want to be better, don't expect any type of good results. Don't expect the best type of rewards. If you want to be at the top, a man with all this money, but then still have the character of a brute, you're not going to end up with the best results, right? You're going to pay for it in some kind of way. These men are young. They come from nothing. And when they have something, they're now talking about how they're going to have mistresses and options, and their wife is going to know the deal. And but what about the kids? Do you really believe your kids are going to support you sleeping with other women? You really think they're going to respect you as a father who's supposed to be honorable, disciplined, loyal, honest? And they know that you are out and about with other women? Do you know what kids think when they grow up and they become adults? They resent the father. They don't talk to the father when they get old, majority of the time, because they remember the father being a reckless and careless man. The Bible says for a man to not forsake the wife of his youth, meaning you are not supposed to have a wife, get married young with your young wife, and then later on in life, after she's given up her youth, her fertility, her womb, later on in life, you forsake her by going to someone else, leaving her and doing her wrong, and basically not even adhering to your vows. the things that are being told to men in this space, weak men to other weak men, if these are Christian men, which a lot of them say they are, they're not following God's way. They're not. They're not doing it. I don't understand why men are obsessed with doing things that's just not right. And the things aren't hard. It's not hard to be a loyal person, male or female. It's not hard to be honest. It's not. I'd rather see more men just not get married than to see men want to get married but literally be okay with being crappy husbands and emotionally corrupt in their marriage, which is exemplified when you sleep with other women while having a wife and kids at home waiting for you. Just don't get married. You are going to ruin your life by taking that chance. Majority of women that want to have a monogamous marriage are not okay with their husband sleeping around, no matter his income. The money doesn't matter in situations like this. With women who are actually healthy and whole and want genuine love, they want a loving family, they're not going to be okay with you sleeping around because you finally, quote unquote, made it and you need to sow your royal oats as a husband. That is weak. That is weak. So in this art, he wrote a book, this professor. He wrote an entire book about his findings, was talking to the Black men he spoke to, right? And he's trying to reset the image from, so this is the title of the book, Black Lives Matters, Authentic Men's Voices on Marriage and Romantic Relationships. And his study included 33 Black men from Kentucky with all types of different experiences, ages 18 to 72, with incomes from $0 to $175, all levels of education and relationship status. And he wrote a book about it, so obviously he's not going to put all the details here in this article because he wants you to read his book. But the men who are single, the men who had a woman, were saying that the woman really helped him and changed his life. But the men who were single were blaming their singleness on lack of example of what a good relationship looks like and their own traumas, and how their own traumas would haunt them and keep them single in a way. So the men who were single and couldn't keep a relationship, it had nothing to do with the woman. It had all to do with them and their own personal issues. So when I see men coming on here talking crap, telling women what they can and can't say, that has nothing to do with women. It has everything to do with how that man feels on the inside. It has everything to do with how that man sees women and his own failures and his own discrepancies. That's what it has to deal with the most, right? Weak men are weak because they just choose to be. It is a choice. You can choose to be a strong person. You can. You don't have to be weak. You don't have to participate in debauchery. You don't have to fall into this gangster culture, this seeing women as conquest culture. You don't have to do that. You don't. Right? Like, am I missing something? Now, if you do come across something to do with women and you have something to say about it, that's different. But if you're trying to police woman and tell them what they can't and cannot talk about, that they should be quiet, you are out of line, sir. You are out of line. You are out of line because you don't know what you're talking about. You can't tell women that have been through things to shut up, that are trying to share their wisdom with other women. And it's because these men see women as conquest. They don't want you to share your experience. They want you to be silent because your voice will influence other women to no longer participate in their game of being a conquest, in the man's game of having a woman as a conquest. If too many Black women are speaking up on their experiences with certain men, those men are no longer going to look attractive, especially to other women. I posted on my community tab a few weeks ago. Sorry, guys. I posted on my community tab a few weeks ago about how non-Black people are tired of hearing Black men talk crap about Black women. They're confused about it. One Asian girl said that she does not deal with Black men solely because of that reason. They don't understand it. And it's to the point where really, it's like Black women don't even have to say anything because the men are going to do what they do regardless. And it's going to be seen by the rest of the world. Like, if you think only Black women are upset about this documentary coming out, you've got it all wrong. There's plenty of other non-Black people that are confused as to why propaganda to show a group of men who are gangster rappers, who are tend to be very violent. Other groups of people don't understand why they need a documentary showing them in one way when reality is not in agreement with that. The only difference between when Black women complain about a certain group of men and non-Black people do is that Black women are just more bold with it because this is our community, and non-Black people are not. Non-Black people don't want to get called racist for calling out the obvious, but you can't call a Black woman racist for calling out the obvious in her own community as a Black person. You can't do that. That's why when I see people calling Black women calling out the obvious white supremacists, I'm like, what? Is the bar that low that in order for anyone to tell you something, they can't do it without being claimed a racist? I don't think Black women should be quiet at all. Not at all. Whoever sees it, sees it. If it was really that bad, guys, if the things that Black women said were that bad to the rest of the world would be commenting about it as well. The only people commenting about it are the group of men, are Black men. I don't see white men in the comments talking about, you guys are wrong, shut up. When it comes to talking about Black men, I don't see them doing that. I actually see the opposite. I see white men calling into divester shows saying, you're right, they do act like this, and I don't get it. White men don't understand. The ones that come up in here, white men believe that Black women are very much so attractive. I had a white man comment on one of my videos saying, yes, she's right, ladies. You have a lot of options. There is an army of men that want you. Y'all can go look yourself. I've had an Asian man comment on my video like, hey, where can I get more information on Asian men and Black women together? I'm interested in them. Y'all can go look through the comments and see. This is the internet, y'all. It's a worldwide resource. It's a worldwide entity. Everyone sees what's going on. That is why I do understand how lately there's been some BWE creators coming out and saying, watch what you ladies say on here, right? I do understand that because this is a worldwide entity, the World Wide Web. It's accessible anywhere there's internet present. Anyone can get on YouTube and read comments. So I do suggest that when you ladies speak about things, be wise in your words, but keep your truth is your truth, your message is your message, period. And it is what it is. But if it was so bad, best believe all types of people will be up in these comments, also neglecting and ignoring the truth. They would. They would, because there's more of them than there are of us, and they would be up in here if there was a serious issue, especially with the larger content creators who have up to like 100,000 plus subscribers and get thousands and thousands of views a video a day. You know how much those videos are pushed into all kinds of people's algorithms? Like, I know we're online and we only see numbers, but if you attach actual people to them, if one video about how a Black woman has a horrible experience in dating Black men, and that video gets up to like 100,000 views, you know how many people 100,000 is? Do you really know? That's like a Beyonce stadium. That's damn near like the Super Bowl stadium. Especially the ones that go viral to 1 million. Do you know how many people 1 million are? And you can't be that naive to think it's only one group. That includes white people. That includes Asian people. 1 million people is a lot. And best believe if they all disagreed, there'd be so many comments saying so, but they're not. They're consuming the information and keeping it moving because it's probably true. And it's not because of racism, guys. People aren't coming for you because you're Black. They're coming for you because of what's actually happening. I'm just waiting for the day to Black people at large to understand that. When Black people start taking accountable for their actions, holding themselves accountable, the image itself will improve for everybody. Stop blaming everything on the fact that you're Black. For real. Being a Black person is not an anomaly anymore. We've been around. These white people been seen Black people. It's not news to see a Black person in 2022 anymore. It's not news to hear that there were once Black slaves in the US. Stop blaming everything on that. If you have a group of men that are legitimately out, Jay-Z legitimately says that he was a full-blown drug dealer in his life before he started rapping. And while he was beginning his rap career too. People aren't calling him a gangster rapper because he's Black. He is a gangster rapper. He was an ex-gang member or ex-drug dealer, and now he raps about it. That's his life. Like, are you kidding me? Snoop Dogg is a gangster rapper. He was on the Super Bowl wearing a full Crip outfit. Are you kidding me? People aren't saying that Snoop Dogg is just this ghetto gangster because he's Black. They're saying he's a ghetto gangster because he's from the ghetto, and he literally gangbanged on stage during the Super Bowl halftime show. He Crip walked. Like, guys. But this is what weak men do. They can't take accountability. They can't take accountability. He's competitive, over supportive. This is the 30 signs of weak men. He is competitive, over supportive. Sure, a little healthy competition can be fun, but if your successes darken his day, he likely feels unworthy at his core. When we don't feel worthy, we often devalue others, become fearful they will leave, or even try to sabotage them. The men want you to be quiet because they're also in competition. They want to humble you because they are in competition with you. He does not empathize because he don't care. It's just the truth, y'all. This is what weak men do. Right? The men have their spaces and their platforms, and they want it to be the only thing out there in regards to Black relations. The Black men only want to have a voice in Black relations. But women are stepping up now and saying, no, we have an experience as well. We have an experience as well. They want to get on here and say that Black women in general are undesirable, but there is proof throughout history of non-Black men who have legitimately sold their riches just to be with a Black woman. That has happened. There are historical texts written by non-Black men solely praising how beautiful Black women are when they first got to Africa. They went back to Europe and wrote books about the Black woman's beauty, about how it was the most amazing, she was the most amazing human being he's ever seen. I'm going to do a video about that. Because these weak men have it twisted. They are brainwashed and they are fooled. They are so weak. They are not attractive in a sense of partnership with men who are strong and have sense. Men who are strong and have sense don't work well with weak men. They don't. If a man talking about he doesn't have friends like that, a grown man, he doesn't at least have friends, that is a red flag. Major. That is. And the reason why these little things that have to do with like emotional stuff are such a big deal with men is because men are an emotional being. So if there's an area in his life that's really important to him that's doing horribly, it's going to affect him differently and emotionally compared to women. Women are completely different in how they deal with spaces and voids in their life that they're sad about. It's different. It's just the truth, guys. Should I drop the link? Does anyone want to speak about this? Like, what do you guys think? Because I'm frankly just tired of the comments and just the backlash. I'm just tired of the comments and the backlash that Black women receive for legitimately speaking their mind. So what if it's about Black men? So what if it's about the careers they're trying to get, their desire to date interracially? Why does it matter to anyone else that's not a Black woman? Or that's not the person in the subject, at least. But even then, why does it still matter? If you are upset that people see you in some kind of way, your image, it is up to you to fix that. You fix that by your actions, holding yourself accountable. Period. No one has to shut up to get your image better. No one has to create documentaries to get your image better. Just be better. Just be better. It is that simple. And you show your weakness when you decide to not be better, but you decide to focus on everybody else and what they're saying about you. And you do that by telling them to shut up, by telling them the problems with them instead of looking at yourself. This platform I have is to create videos on womanhood. Period. That's it. And experiences. I don't feel bad about that. You're never going to make me feel bad for sharing my experiences ever. You're never going to make me feel bad about that. I have no reason to feel bad about that. I have no reason to feel bad about that because this is my life. I'm proud of my life. Despite the horrible things that may have happened, I'm still happy that I have what I have. Despite the relationships that went south, I learned a lot from that. And if the relationships that went south were majority of the time with men of a certain group, then it is what it is. If men of a certain group no longer want to look like they are problematic, they have to stop being problematic. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. You guys saw my last video, if you haven't seen it, it was the Goldman. I did a video on updating you guys on Goldman Sachs. They have officially picked the specific organizations that they're going to invest in that are either ran by Black women or Black women-centered organizations. Some of those organizations are just simply ran by a Black woman, but they're actually going to help Black men and women in some of those organizations, in some of those businesses. Not all of those businesses are solely benefiting Black women. There are organizations on that list that are catering to all people of color, men and women. You have been out here upset about that. But it's like, where are y'all's organizations though? Where? I mean, let's let's wake it up. Like, where are the men's organizations that are complaining? I'm a communications chair on 2 organizations in my own personal life. In my own city. On 2 different ones, both ran by women. Yes, Naga, there are organizations that Goldman Sachs is investing in where it's not about Black women, though. It's just the Black woman is the CEO, but Black men will receive help from her organization. Yes. I don't know why all the guys think it's for Black women to get money to get their hair and nails done. Absolutely not. Men of color are benefiting as well. That's the crazy part. But since the men in this space just are so obsessed with humbling and silencing women, y'all not doing your research. Y'all not doing your research. Do you guys really believe that the Black community being divided is actually more beneficial than being together? Do y'all really believe that? This country makes more money off of families than it does off of single people. We live in a post-World War II type of economy that values family and the white picket fence American dream. It doesn't value baby mamas and baby daddies and gender wars. This country's not making money off of situations like that. They're making money when you have a ring on your finger because you're spending more money on your kids. You're getting a house. You're like, I'm probably, oh my God, guys. But there's news coming out because there's so many single people, right? That everything for single people, the price for being single, whether you are a man or a woman, is going up. When you are married, you receive tax cuts. When you are single, you receive no tax cuts. You are paying more as a single person than you are as a married person in your taxes. Your medical bills are more expensive, especially as a woman. If you are a single woman, throughout life, you are spending more money on your medical bill than you are if you're married compared to married women. That's very interesting to me. And it's not that the price of your medical bill is going to change once you're a wife. It's actually going to remain the same. However, you're going to have a husband with a second income to help you. So for you, it's not going to be very expensive because you're not doing it alone. Price is going to remain the same. You're just going to have another person to help you with a husband. And yes, your husband is going to help you because he made you his wife, and his duty is to protect you and to keep you safe. And that means also through hospital related stuff. When you're married, you guys care about each other's health. So that's the thing that happens. Studies have also shown, I'll probably do separate lives to go on this. When I find everything that I've been looking up, I have to go back into my log. But studies are showing that women of all races are the top home buyers right now. Home ownership for women have went up. But it's only went up for women who make a lot of money. If you're a single mother, it's much more harder for you to get a home. It's much more harder for you to get a home. Male home ownership has declined. Single male home ownership has declined. That's why when I see any single man getting a house, I actually really congratulate him, because not a lot of men are buying houses right now that are single. They're only buying homes if they're married. So this is where marriage becomes a benefit for a man. And there's plenty of studies done on this, that when men are married, they get more out of life. Literally, they get inspiration and motivation to actually get more. It's a natural thing that happens when he knows he has a wife and kids at home depending on him. His masculinity is automatically ignited to want to do more. There is studies on this. We already know that men on the job get paid more money when they have a family and just a wedding ring on their finger. They get looked at differently, and they get appointed leadership positions. Men who don't have families are not trusted to run companies, because other men that do the appointing who have families see single men as they have the ability to be reckless. They don't have a wife and kids at home to ground them. They also don't have the same motivation as a man who is married with kids. A man who is married with kids has the desire to get it by any means necessary, because it's no longer about him. It's about his family. And in return for that effort, he receives love and care and devotion from his family for whatever it is he needs, especially emotionally. And men don't get emotional support from other men. They get it from their wife and their kids even. That's why no matter what the divorce rates are, men are still going to always want to be married. There is a void in a man who is single, and it's not about if it's there or not. It's about how is he supplementing that void. And we see this through having conquests, using women as conquests, getting on drugs. Pew Research Center released, I posted on my community tab last month, that Black men are the number one group of people to die from drug overdose. I mean, hello? Is this ringing any bells? Is anyone else making these connections? I can't be the only one who's making the connection here. A lot of Black men are single. A lot of men in general, the older you get as a man, regardless of your race and income, and you are single, the least likely you are to marry. That is why majority of people that do marry tend to marry young. When they finally find someone, when they're getting about 26 to about 31, during that time period of your life, especially as a man, that is the time of your life as a man you are most likely to meet your potential wife. I don't know about y'all, but the men that I've dated that are like 35 and up, or I've heard them on online or on Clubhouse, a good chunk of them have said that they've already had that good woman and they screwed it up. I mean, it's just like every guy in that age group comes across a woman that he can make his wife. And if he doesn't, it's because something happened. He, at the end of it all, when it's like 10 years later, the man comes out and said, there was a lot that I did wrong that prevented me from having that woman. Yes, pretty, the one that got away. I mean, it's real. It happens. A lot of men have a lot of pride and ego and they don't want to admit it, but it's the truth. A lot of weak men suffer from the one that got away. And it's not until he gets older that he recognizes he jacked up. He'll say things like, I wasn't ready, I was young, I was a knucklehead, right? I mean, if you're a man spending time humbling women all day, trying to silence them, you are wasting your time. You are wasting your time. You're wasting your time because a woman's experience is her experience. It is undeniable. Divestment would not exist if majority of a lot of men that those women are talking about had good qualities. I just showed you guys a study done by a Black man who said that a majority of Black men are just not husband material. This was from December 2020. This Black man here. I mean, many Black men are not viable marriage mates because of their financial struggles, and because they are poor and come from homes that navigate through scarcity and now want to make up for that through treating women like conquests. That is a choice. That is a choice to treat women like conquest. You don't have to go around sleeping with women and treating them like objects. You don't have to do that. I'm not a man, so I can never speak to what desires internally are happening to make men want to go out and do that. And that's also not something that is exclusive to Black men. There's lots of men everywhere that, navigate that way in general. But it is looked at specifically with Black men, not because they are Black, but because the proportion is off in relation to the population size of Black men. Guys, as Black people, we only make up 13% of the population. The reason why we are under such a microscope with anything we do is because we are a small group who just so happens to do the most every time. And it's weird to other groups of people who just don't get it. Best believe white people out here screwing each other as conquests as well. But it's not, the majority of them are not doing that. Majority of them strive to be married or come from homes where there is marriages there. For the most part. For the most part. And this is exemplified because when white people make music, it's not about having a conquest with women like it is in gangster rap. White rappers don't get popular with other white people. Eminem is popular the most amongst Black people. Eminem is popular the most amongst Black people. He's not popular amongst white people. The type of music that's popular the most amongst white people is like country music. And country music is about, there's a lot of love songs in country music. I mean, there's sexual intimacy is talked about in country music as well. But, they're not talking about And the country songs that I see that make like the top 10 most popular country music on the country music charts and all that, it's nothing of the same of the type of music that Black men put out that get popular amongst Black men. It's not. And that speaks a lot to what both groups of men value, what they see as trendy. That speaks to it culturally. The type of art Black men are attracted to versus the type of art white men are attracted to are completely different. And that says a lot. I'm hoping one day to see you join a constructive manosphere panel with your viewpoints. To be honest, Nanga, I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would do that because the men in that space have minds that just, they can't be changed. And I'm not trying to change a grown man's mind, right? I'm not. I've been in some comment sections though. That's about the most I'll do. If something really sticks out to me. But I've heard the channels, I've heard the talking points. I had one manosphere creator, a really big one, actually reach out to me to go on his channel. I declined, and he went on to do a video about one of my manosphere videos. He did a whole commentary on it that was like 3 to 4 hours long. I mean, it is what it is. He has that right. Respectfully, I have no issue with that. This is the internet. Like, you get to, it's freedom of speech. Like, I believe in that amendment. But I don't have the desire to do that. I just don't. Because the real high value men are not on here humbling and trying to get women in line. They're just not doing it. They don't care to do it. They're spending their time working, and they're spending their time with women who just get it. The thing about the quote unquote elite is that they get it. They just don't deal with people at the bottom. They just don't do it. Elite date and mingle with other elites. They're not fixated on bringing everybody else up. You just can't save everyone. You can't bring everyone with you, and you can't go to where everyone else is going either. Your path is your path. Your lane is your lane. And that's just what it is. I mean, for real. Like, you know, just no. Like, I don't know why certain spaces that aren't even about Black women at all. They're men-centered spaces, but they talk about women a lot. I even seen another Black man comment this as to why all of the Black male spaces solely talk about women all of the time in a way that is like humbling and pointing things out. I mean, like over here, I make womanhood videos. Over here, I talk about men, but I make analysis. I'm presenting articles and stuff with y'all. Like, y'all know I don't come on live unless I have something to present. Like, this man was talking about there's men going on live. There's men going on live just to rant about women that they'll never have. I don't see content on how men can be better husbands. I only see content on how women can be better wives from a man's perspective. But it's coming from a group of men that majority of the time come from homes where there was neither a husband or a wife present. I come from a home where there was a wife and husband present. I come from a lineage of Black wives. Sacrilege, when did I say I was a part of the elite? I was speaking in general sense. This is why I'm never going to go to the manosphere. You guys don't listen and you think what you want based on the feelings you already have towards Black women, which is apparently negative. Clearly. I'm not the elite with my little channel. I'm not the elite. But the ones that are, don't dwindle on down to people that are lower level, especially if they disagree. Especially that. I don't even directly speak about specific manosphere creators on my channel. I don't even do that. I don't even give names of other manosphere creators here. So, like I said, to me, there's a lot of men in the manosphere that want a humble woman. That's all that's going to happen if I go over there. It's just going to be a bunch of denying of my experience as a woman. How are you, the opposite gender, going to deny my experience and say it's not true just because it cannot be quantified? That is the point of having a space, is to talk about things that actually don't get shown in charts and reported. Like, that's the point. So you can have another perspective to further shape your individual life onto where you should go. I know everyone doesn't really like to talk about anecdotal experience, but anecdotal experience is important. It's actually very important because it's you actually listening to another person's life, and learning from their actions. What can you learn from looking at data all day? You're just going to learn numbers, but you're not going to learn situations. You're not going to learn how things got there. You're not going to learn any of that unless you hear it from a person's mouth who actually experienced it. I don't have a problem with men having their own spaces. Just like I said earlier in this live, I don't have a problem with men having barbershop or locker room talk. Women don't go over there and tell men to shut up. Like, what we know in general about barbershop talk and locker room talk, we know that women don't go over there. Like, women know that that is a man's time. That's his space. That's what he's doing. So when women want to have that same dynamic, it's an issue. I got men in my comments trying to say that's not true and that's impossible and all this stuff. You're not a woman, sir. You're not a woman. You cannot speak on what we experience and what's not true, that we legitly come online and say, this happens to us. Hello? Like, I'm starting to think that certain men who can't really like interpret things, how can I even say this? What I find the most is that men who are the most emotionally kind of not all the way together can't believe the things you say. They just need to see it through a data, a chart. They need to see it in some kind of legitimized way. Like, they just don't trust what you're saying. A man who's unable to trust is a man who does have emotional issues. I mean, and it will show up in some way, on some level, at some point. It's just, it is what it is. That is what I have noticed personally. When I talk to a man and I tell him my experiences and he denies it, that's telling me a lot. Especially when I have never given him a reason to not believe me. It's not like you've ever caught me in a lie. It's not like you've ever seen me doing something wrong. but yet you think I'm still wrong. Why? And nigga, I understand that. I understand that. And I'm actually not disrespectful. I'm never going to get on here and call a black man a bullet bag. I have no desire to do so. I have no desire to do so. If I speak on my experience, I always make sure to say, this is what I have seen in my life. Like, I make it clear to you guys, like, this is my view. I'm not saying this is what's in data. I'm not saying, now, if I say it's in some kind of data, I show the data right here on screen. This is what I do, guys, on my lives. I don't just be out here talking. There's a lot of content creators in that space, and they say data, but they don't post the link. They definitely don't show it on live. And then if they do post the link, oh, all of a sudden the link is broken. Like, what? What? I do believe that there is men who have weaknesses when they are obsessed with humbling and correcting women all of the time, telling them that their experiences are wrong. Oh, you experienced this? Well, it's not in the data, so it's not true. Huh? And the funny thing is, when women talk about their data, talk about their experiences, majority of the time, they're not even trying to say this is how it works all of the time. They're just talking about their own life. But everyone wants to get so emotional that they can't recognize the distinction. The point of having a space is to talk about your experiences. That's the point. To meet and commingle with like-minded people. Or where, okay, we see the data, but this is what I've been through, despite of what's out there. Right? He uses hurtful words or violence to express his negative emotions. Kind of a no-brainer, but cannot be repeated enough. A man who has not healed his history will continuously bring it into his present through anger. It takes a great deal of strength to face our demons. I'm sorry, but a lot of men I see in this space, and really a lot of black women I see in this space, have some things that they're still really angry about, and they come here to express it. That's kind of what I see a lot of. But I heard another content creator say that a man's hatred is not the same as a woman's hatred. They are not the same. There's actually another study done that it doesn't matter what women say or how women even express themselves, it's never going to be taken seriously in the same way it would a man, because we are conditioned and indoctrinated as human beings to see women as already weaker and more vulnerable in the first place. So when women get angry in any way, it's not something that is intimidating. It's not something that is a big deal. It's something that can go easily ignored for a very long time, probably always. But when a man gets angry, and when a man gets bitter, and when a man shouts out, that is something people turn heads to watch. We see this exemplified in the real world. When women are in sports versus when men are in sports, women in sports, no one really be going to the games for real. When men are in sports, now that's a show. Because there's real aggression, and the players will get angry. They're football, like they're tackling each other and all that stuff. We're already indoctrinated to see women as the group of people who can never measure up to the level of a man's aggression and anger. It just is what it is. So I know we want to talk about how women initiate abuse and stuff like that, and how it's not fair, and women physically get on things with men. I'm not saying that's right, but what I'm trying to tell you guys is there is a difference. There is a reason why no matter the woman's reaction, the man is still always at fault if he reacts in return. It's just the truth. And I don't believe that a lot of men who are weak understand this. I don't believe they understand this. I don't believe they are aware of their own strength the way the rest of the world is aware of it. I mean, now I'm not excusing that women remain angry, that women put their hands on men. I'm definitely not, I actually don't think that is something a woman should ever do, period. But what I'm saying is when it happens, it is not the same as when a man does it or when he even reacts. It's just what it is, guys. It's an indoctrination for human beings. Woman's strength is never going to be at the level of a man. And we need to stop getting on here and acting like men are legitimately suffering from women. No, you are not. This is a new form of indoctrination men are creating by believing they are oppressed by women. You are not. You are not. You're not. Men who believe that they are is why they want to silence women and keep them humble. They believe they are weaker in comparison to women, and they are not. It is an insecurity. It's just an insecurity with men. I think like that. It has nothing to do with women. But all right, guys, I don't want to sit down here long. I mean, did anyone want to speak on this? I can drop the link, but it's not going to be a long thing. It's not going to be a long thing, seriously. Yeah, let me post this. Now, this has to do with weak men in a relationship. But, you know, a lot of these qualities can deal with men in real life, like outside of a relationship. But this was an impromptu live, guys, because I've just been seeing an uptick of men in my comments, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with men watching or wanting to understand. But I have a problem with you basically telling me and other women in this space to shut up. That's what I have a problem with, because what's not going to happen is that. That's what's not going to happen, ever. When I go into manosphere spaces and watch videos, I make comments, yes, but I don't tell those men to be quiet. It's actually a good thing that men can talk. And it's a good thing that women can talk too, because both of us can observe each other. Men can look at crazy women's spaces and understand which type of woman to stay away from, and women can look at the crazy men's spaces and understand which crazy men to stay away from. You actually hear directly from the horse's mouth. You will never hear me say that men having a space to themselves is problematic and stupid and they just can't talk about stuff. That's never been my belief. If I said anything around it and you assumed it, I don't know, but I'm telling you now, that's not what I think. Not even at all, right? And when men want to come on here and tell women to shut up, oh, that's not true, it's not going to happen for you, you, sir, are weak. Because what strong man does that? What man who is truly confident is telling women over the internet that they don't deserve something they want, that they're actually willing to work for, to get? What is that doing for you? If I had to choose which type of things in the manosphere space that I like, it's probably spaces that don't include bringing women up just to humble them and tell them what they don't and do deserve. I more so like the spaces where men are talking to other men about their experiences, about strategy or whatever. But spaces that are built off of telling women off, what is that doing? What is that doing? Honestly, it's doing nothing. Men that participate in conversations like that all of the time are truly weak. They truly have nothing else to do. What are you getting from telling women off? How much money are you making from that? You as a man, why are you paying monthly to be a member of a man's channel who does nothing but talk about women all of the time? You could use that money and put it in a stock portfolio. You can buy some crypto with that money you're putting every month. Like, I'm not a man, but y'all don't want me to start talking about certain things from a woman's perspective that they're doing. I actually don't want to do that because this space is for women. But I really wish there were more men who understood certain stuff and made a channel about it. Men who are actually like, that's the thing, is that strong men who are confident, they don't have time for stuff like that. They don't. They're living life. Most likely they're probably married because good men truly don't stay single for long. I'm sorry. Like, if you were a catch, you'd be caught. You'd be caught. It's just that simple. Truly good, emotionally available, and healthy, loving men do not stay single for a long time. Number one, because it is very easy for them to connect with a woman in general. It's just the truth. Men who have a problem connecting with women need to they no, women who have a problem connecting with women, number one, don't have one or can't keep one, right? No matter what he does, no matter how much money he makes, no matter really what race he is, he can't keep her. He can attract her, but he can't keep her. Two different things. Because men love to talk about how you can attract a man, but can you keep him? Well, can you attract a woman and can you keep her? I actually think it's much harder to keep a woman because women are emotional. Women are complex. Men are more simple. I think it's easier to keep a man than it is to keep a woman. Genuinely, I do. I personally find it easier to believe that a woman didn't keep her man because she probably didn't really want to. She didn't really love him. She didn't really respect him, versus a man who couldn't keep his woman and truly believed he did everything for her and she still left. And it's probably because he just didn't understand her. He didn't understand her. That's why she left. That's why you did everything you could and it still wasn't good enough. But she also didn't really love you either. That's why she left. Because if you're a Christian person, well, the Bible says love never fails. So if it failed, someone wasn't in it with you. I believe it's easier to keep a man than it is to keep a woman. I genuinely do. Like, there is no female Kevin Samuels. There isn't. The way he does it, the way he has people on there, like, there is no woman calling up to get men in line about their expectations for women. Like, you have women that will have men come up, but it's usually like to debate, to have them see something in general, but it's never about their qualifications for finding a wife. The way he does for women about their qualifications on being a wife and getting a husband. Like, there's no woman out here doing that to men. Like, it's harder to keep a woman, so much so that a man needed to create a space to actually get the woman in line because they're just too hard to figure out. So now you have men trying to tell women off and manipulate them and gaslight and all that stuff. Now you have men trying to mentally confuse women and play these games and run these tactics. There's a reason why there's pickup artists and they're only men, but there are no women pickup artists. There's a reason for that, guys, because women are much more difficult to understand and to keep and to get. Men are not. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to say that men are just, they don't mean anything. But what I'm saying is that men are not easy to get and keep. A woman is hard to get and keep, especially to keep. It's true. Women are complex and they're different. What makes one woman feel good, the other woman might not make the other woman feel good. Right? Is there a market for that, though? This woman called Keza. I think there would be a market for that. Considering the fact that men, majority of the time, want long-term relationships more so than women, I think if there was a female Kevin Samuels where men can call in to actually ask, how can I get this relationship that I want with the woman that I want, I think that market would blow up. I think that market will blow up. I think it would just be a reversed. There's a lot of men that watch Kevin Samuels, and the women that call in obviously are women that want relationships, right? Majority of the ones that have called in want to be married. And but keep in mind that that's according to studies, though. That's not the majority of women today. And I've done a live on that. I showed the studies. It was a study of, I think, 1,000 or like 1,100 Black people. Overwhelmingly, the Black men wanted relationships and the woman did not. I think, what was it, guys? Like, I don't know, 60% of Black men in the study wanted a relationship, and it was only like 30% of the Black women did. Like, it was so small, very small number of Black women who wanted relationships versus the men. So I think that if there was a female Kevin Samuels, I think there would be a market for that. I mean, a lot of men call into his show in general when he has his men's week, or when there's just always men waiting to call into his show. Right? I think there'd be a market for that for sure. Simply because men want women and they want to keep women. And since there are more men that want long-term relationships, well, then you're also going to have more men who also want to learn how to keep that relationship, how to keep it long-term. Divorce rates are high, but you still have men wanting to get married. From those group of men, they do want to know the ins and outs of it all on how to keep their woman happy. They want to, and they'll do it. They already do it. There's already men saying that do end up in divorce, upset that they did everything they can and it still didn't work. Men actually, the men that want relationships, they actually want to have good ones. It's just other things that get in the way from that happening, whether it's on the woman's side or his side. Like, there's even men that have issues and know they have issues, but still want a relationship. Like, the desire for a man to have a woman in his life runs deep to the point where it doesn't even make sense. Because I told you guys, men are not emotional and they do not get emotional support from a man. So no matter if he is crazy or if he is healthy, he wants a woman in his life in an intimate way. And it is what it is, right? Like there's other men who are noticing what's happening in the dating world and noticing that there are a lot of single men, and the men who are actually healthy are having conversations fearful of what those miserable men are going to do. That's actually happening. Healthy men are trying to figure out how they can keep miserable incel men in line because women are not choosing them, and they know for a fact that those men are going to or are at least capable of getting violent and hurting people, including other men. So yes, I think the market for a female Kevin Samuels for men to call in and get uh measured up or whatever would be very profitable. Very profitable. More men want relationships, more men are incels, more men are actually single. Believe it or not. Women, even though Black women, in particular Black women, but really the study I read didn't have a distinction by race or age, but it said that women in general are more likely to get in a relationship than men are. They're more likely to. Why is that? Because more men want relationships, right? More men want relationships than women do. So if a woman wants one, well, she's more likely to get in one. That's just what it is, right? But studies are also showing that women who remain single and childless are actually being reported as more happy and healthier. Because when you don't have kids, uh, your body doesn't have to go through the stress that it goes through pregnancy and giving birth. As a woman, your body doesn't go through that at all. Therefore, you end up being more healthier throughout your lifetime. But it depends on a lot. It depends on genetics and all types of stuff. Okay, sacrilege, that's fine. I'm talking about the men that do want women around and do want relationships. There are men who don't want relationships. You're right. But they are not the majority. Majority of men want a woman in their life. They want a wife. They want kids, and they want to be loved by a good woman. It's always going to be like that, regardless of the divorce rates. Because, like I said, men cannot get emotional support from their male friends. They can only get it from their woman. And then both people get a special form of emotional support or emotional love from their kids. The love I would get from my daughter, I cannot receive that from one of my girls or my husband. A lot of people want to be loved in the form of a parent, and they can only get that from children, which is why people continue to have them, especially, and it's different as well for men. For men, your kids will see you as like their superhero. Like they will see you as like the the strongest man in the world. Your little babies. That's how they see their dad. And men love to feel like the superhero. They love it. I said before in another live, y'all, men, they be having baby fever too. They don't show it the same way women do, but they have baby fever. Especially the older they get. And the more successful they get, sometimes they want to, they want to have kids. I saw one man comment before, what is the point of being so successful if you have no one to share it with? You have no one to pass it down to. What's the point? What's the point? And from the men that don't want kids and don't want to be married, what I saw they responded was, well, the point is to have it for me, to do whatever I want. But to a lot of men who want wives and kids, they don't think just themselves, right? The men who strive to have a relationship and be a good husband and be a good father tend to also not be very selfish and self-centered. I'm actually applauding. There's a lot of people coming out saying I can't have kids. Like it's too much work. I'm too into my own thing and I can't do it. I actually applaud them for that. Thank you for admitting and being self-aware. Because of you acknowledging that, there's not going to be a child in this world who now has to deal with a selfish parent because you are acknowledging your selfishness. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's much more of a problem if you know you're a selfish person, you're out here being reckless, and now you have a child and you now refuse to like notice your own recklessness and notice your self-awareness, because some people say that parenthood can change a person, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it makes it worse. Sometimes some people are not meant to be parents, and when they do, their issues get amplified. It's just true. Now, when I talk about weak men, when I say anything like this about men, it's not because I hate men. If I talk about black men, it's not because you're black. It's just that there are certain things going on and they need to be called out. I mean, come on. It is what it is. I said before, guys, I have no problem with men having their own spaces. That's okay. That's okay. I actually enjoy hearing healthy conversations with two men talking about their experiences with love, with in career, with their goals. There is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. It's a problem when you want to be disrespectful, when you want to say things like these broads are stupid. Who's learning anything from that? I've called out women having trauma dump spaces as well. Watch my video, Don't Fall for the Fantasy. I'm calling out women in that video. This isn't a man-hating channel. I'm not a misandrist. I think misandrists are delusional. We can't survive without our men, whatever the color, whatever the ink, we can't survive. This is why when they act stupid, they need to get called out. It is what it is. On black women aborting black males, you've never heard me support that on my channel. I did talk about that in the Protecting the Womb video, and I said, for women, don't even sleep with men that you wouldn't even want to deal with for a long time. Especially if you're a woman who's mature and a little older. Really doesn't matter your age, to be honest. You just shouldn't be sleeping with men whose personalities you dislike. Like we just have to stop. I mean, if you want a family someday and you like, you know, you're more on the traditional, you believe in the nuclear family, you just come on. Like, come on. Like, I understand why women get abortions, right? And it doesn't really matter what's said from any content creator on what should happen to black male fetuses. Black female fetuses get aborted too. Like, what are we really talking about here? What is the conversation really about? I think if you're a woman who wants to have kids someday and have a family, I would try with all of my might to stay away from getting yourself in a situation where you need to get an abortion. Because regardless if it's by a black man, a white man, whoever, getting an abortion causes trauma to your body. It causes trauma to your uterus. You can't, depending on the type of abortion you get and just your health in general, type of body you got going on, you can develop scar tissue of the uterus. And that can make it hard for you to get pregnant. You can miscarry much more often because of it. I will never actually say like, just get an abortion if you like. I'll never actually say that. What I will say is, please just be as careful as possible when you lay down with somebody. Like, getting an abortion is no joke, guys. I don't know why people are throwing it around like it's easy as 1, 2, 3. I've never had one, but I know girls that have had one. You know what? Let me tell you guys a story, because this is actually kind of sad. One of my exes was telling me that his best friend, okay, not his best friend, well, maybe they was close. I don't know what race he was. I'm not even going to get into the race stuff because it really doesn't matter. It's still jacked up anyway. But one of his friends had a girlfriend and she got pregnant. They were not married. She wanted to keep the baby and he did not. Somehow he was able to get a hold of the abortion pill. He chopped it up, put it in a smoothie, and gave it to her. And she drank it. She was feeling sick, so she stopped drinking it. And when she was drinking it, he made her, it's like she came home, he made her a smoothie with the abortion pill chopped up in there, and then he left. He's like, okay, babe, I gotta go. See you later. And she's sitting on the couch or whatever, enjoying the smoothie. She started feeling sick and she went to the bathroom. And before she knew it, she was weak, fell to the ground, and her parents were calling her. Her parents called her, she wasn't answering. So they went over to the house, knocked on the door, no answer. The boyfriend wasn't answering. He wasn't home. The father barged in, saw her on the bathroom floor bleeding out. Blood all over the floor. Right? She survived. She survived. The father came right on time. Went to the hospital, got her all cleaned up. The doctor told her that whatever she ate, the abortion pill was in her system, and she could no longer have kids anymore. Guys, abortions are serious. It's not a joke. As a woman, if you get one, you are putting yourself at risk for a lot. And I think for the abortion pill, if I'm not mistaken, I have a girlfriend who took it, and she told me she did not take the whole thing. Her doctor cut it in half, because she told me her doctor gives it in a way that is like, depending on how many weeks you are. And so they cut it in half or something like that, or whatever. They just don't give you just an abortion. Like, it depends on a lot of things. So your health, how many weeks, and all this stuff. Right? But this bonehead of a boyfriend obviously is no medical health professional, didn't know what the heck he was doing, and just gave it to her. Guys, it's serious. I don't even know why this is being talked about online. Just don't sleep with people that you know you don't want. Just use protection. Okay, women don't want to get on birth control. I actually don't want, I personally hate birth control. I'd never get on it. So I use other methods of protection. Men, you can still protect yourself regardless of what a woman does or does not want to put on in her body. You can protect yourself. I'm seeing a lot of young men that I applaud because some young men are getting vasectomies. And if I'm not mistaken, I think a vasectomy is also reversible. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you guys, I think I read that somewhere, that vasectomies are reversible. But there are things that can be done. You must know what you want. You must know what you want to do so that you're not out here being reckless and retarded. Sorry, I don't mean to say that word, but come on. All right, guys, I'm going to end the live here. It's been 2 hours. I'm going to leave the live up. So like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you're a first-time listener. I'm going to go live tomorrow night to have a fun conversation on femininity, dating and mating with high-value men. I hope to see you ladies there. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it when I go live. All right, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.